The sleek research vessel Stellar Observer drifted silently in Earth's orbit, its sensors working overtime to process the overwhelming data streaming in. Captain Tom Roberts and his team worked in their small research station in Nevada, unaware that they were being studied by beings from beyond their solar system. On board the alien vessel, lead researcher Mark stood frozen, his four eyes widening in disbelief as he reviewed the readings for the third time. According to their most advanced instruments, this planet should be completely devoid of intelligent life. The gravity alone was crushing by galactic standards. The atmosphere was filled with corrosive oxygen, and the temperature swings were extreme enough to shatter most known materials. "This can't be right," Mark muttered, his silver scales reflecting the soft light of the observation deck. "The readings must be faulty." His assistant, Jane, moved closer to examine the data. Her tentacles waved in agitation as she processed the information. "Sir, the readings are accurate. We've run 7 different verification protocols." The most shocking part wasn't just the hostile environment. It was the beings thriving in it. The creatures, which they would soon learn called themselves humans, weren't just surviving. They were flourishing. The survey team watched in horror as humans engaged in what appeared to be recreational activities in conditions that would kill most galactic species instantly. "Look at this," Jane exclaimed, pointing to their video feed. "They're deliberately exposing themselves to solar radiation on those beaches. They're immersing themselves in highly corrosive dihydrogen monoxide for entertainment." Mark felt his protective third eyelid flutter rapidly as he observed a group of humans participating in something called football, willingly colliding with each other with enough force to shatter the bones of any civilized species. "We need to revise the classification system," Mark declared, his voice trembling slightly. "The current scale only goes up to Class 12 Deathworlds. This planet, this Earth, is far beyond anything we've ever encountered." The survey team spent the next 3 days documenting and analyzing. They watched humans walk casually through temperature changes that would cause thermal shock in most species. They observed them eating substances that would be classified as biological weapons in most systems. They saw them living in areas with regular seismic activity, extreme weather patterns, and dangerous predators. "Sir," Jane reported, "I've completed the preliminary classification analysis. Based on our current metrics, Earth would need to be classified as Class 14. The observation room fell silent. Creating new classification levels wasn't done lightly, but there was no choice. Earth had broken their scale. Mark made his decision. "Prepare a priority transmission to the Council. They need to know about this immediately." He paused, watching a human child playing with what their database identified as a dog, a predator with razor-sharp teeth that humans kept in their dwellings. And add a special note: these humans don't even seem to realize how extraordinary their survival is. As the transmission was being prepared, the survey team continued their observations with a mixture of fear and fascination. They watched humans trek through frozen wastelands, dive into ocean depths, and climb mountains for recreation. Each new observation confirmed their decision to create the new classification levels. "Do you think we should make contact?" Jane asked, her tentacles curling nervously. Mark considered the question carefully. "The Council will have to decide. But one thing is certain, we're dealing with something unprecedented here. These humans..." He trailed off, watching a group of firefighters rushing into a burning building. "They're either the most fearless or the most insane species we've ever encountered. Perhaps both." The Stellar Observer began its preparations to return to Council space, carrying with it data that would change the galaxy's understanding of what was possible. As they pulled away from Earth's orbit, Mark took one last look at the blue planet below. It looked deceptively peaceful from space, giving no indication that it was the most terrifying world ever discovered by galactic civilization. Little did the humans below know that their ordinary daily lives were about to redefine their place in the galaxy, all because they called home what others called impossible. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council hummed with nervous energy as representatives from over 300 species gathered for an emergency session. The massive holographic display in the center of the room showed Earth rotating slowly, looking deceivingly peaceful against the backdrop of stars. Lead researcher Mark stood at the presentation podium, his scales slightly pale from stress. He had spent the last 3 days preparing this report, knowing it would shake the foundations of galactic scientific understanding. "Honorable Council members," he began, his voice steady despite his nervousness. "What I'm about to present will challenge everything we thought we knew about survivable conditions for intelligent life." The first set of data appeared above the Earth hologram. This planet, designated Earth by its inhabitants, maintains surface gravity 3.2 times higher than our galactic standard. The atmosphere contains 21% free oxygen, a level we previously considered impossibly corrosive. Murmurs spread through the chamber. A representative from the gas giant worlds raised their sensory appendage. Surely no advanced life could evolve in such conditions. Mark activated the first video feed. This footage was recorded at a location called Olympic Training Center. The hologram showed humans performing various athletic activities. Council members watched in horror as humans lifted weights, performed gymnastics, and ran at speeds that would tear most species apart. "Please note," Mark continued, "these activities are considered recreational by humans. They do this for entertainment." The chamber erupted in shocked whispers. Mark pressed on, displaying new data. The temperature variations on Earth range from -60 to +50 degrees standard. Most regions experience daily swings of 20 degrees or more. The humans not only survive these changes, but thrive in them. Council leader Bob, a being composed primarily of crystalline structures, leaned forward. "How do they survive such thermal stress?" "They barely notice it," Mark replied, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly. "Watch this." The next video showed humans swimming in an ocean, then emerging to sit in a nearby hot spring. Several council members had to look away, their bodies instinctively recoiling at the thermal shock that should have killed the humans instantly. "But it gets more concerning," Mark continued. "Their planet experiences regular natural disasters, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, massive storms. The humans have built their cities anyway, developing technologies to withstand these conditions." The presentation continued with footage of humans eating various foods. Their digestive system is equally impressive. They can consume substances that would be classified as biological weapons in most systems. They intentionally eat fermented foods, spicy compounds, and even derive pleasure from mild toxins like caffeine and alcohol. A security representative raised their appendage. "What are their defensive capabilities?" Mark paused before answering. "Humans have evolved as pursuit predators. They can maintain physical activity for longer than any known species. Their endurance is troubling. They also possess remarkable regenerative abilities. Broken bones heal. Damaged organs repair themselves. They can even survive the loss of limbs." The chamber fell silent as this information sank in. Mark displayed the final classification data. "Based on all these factors, we had to create 2 new classification levels. Earth is now designated as a Class 14 Deathworld, the most extreme environment ever discovered to produce intelligent life." Council leader Bob spoke again, their crystalline form vibrating with concern. "Your recommendation, lead researcher." "We must establish diplomatic contact," Mark replied. "The humans have already developed space travel capabilities. They will find us eventually. It would be better to approach them first, under controlled conditions." The council chamber buzzed with nervous discussion. The idea of intentionally meeting with beings from such an extreme world was frightening, but the alternative, having them discover the galactic community unprepared, was worse. "Very well," Council leader Bob declared. "We will prepare a diplomatic mission. But first, we must establish safety protocols. We cannot risk exposing our diplomats to Earth's conditions." As the council members discussed the details, Mark watched the Earth hologram continue its peaceful rotation. He couldn't help but wonder what other surprises these remarkable humans would reveal once formal contact was established. The galaxy would never be the same after today. The existence of humans had redefined what was possible, and every species would have to adapt to this new reality. The Galactic Council's main diplomatic station, Unity Point, had spent 3 months preparing for the arrival of the first human delegation. Special pressure chambers were constructed, gravity generators were modified, and emergency protocols were established. Despite all this preparation, nothing could have truly readied them for the reality of meeting humans face to face. The human diplomatic vessel Peaceseeker docked with practiced ease. The station's staff watched through safety screens as the airlock cycled. Ambassador Peter walked out first, followed by his team of 5 human diplomats, all wearing standard Earth business attire rather than the expected environmental suits. "Why aren't they wearing protective gear?" whispered one of the station's safety officers, their membrane quivering with anxiety. The humans strode confidently through the station's corridors, apparently comfortable in the carefully adjusted environment that was still considered dangerously thin by Earth standards. Ambassador Peter smiled warmly at the various alien species that pressed themselves against the walls to maintain what they considered a safe distance. The first diplomatic meeting began with an unexpected incident. As the human delegation entered the conference room, Military Advisor John accidentally bumped into a table, knocking over a decorative crystal vessel. Without thinking, he caught it before it hit the ground, a simple act that sent shockwaves through the alien observers. His reflexes, impossible in this gravity, muttered one security officer. "Did you see how casually he handled that impact?" Another whispered. "That force would have shattered most species' appendages." Ambassador Peter noticed the growing tension and decided to address it directly. "Honored representatives of the Galactic Council," he began, his voice carefully modulated to avoid startling anyone, "I sense some discomfort about our physical capabilities. Perhaps we should discuss this openly." Council leader Bob's crystalline form shimmed with nervous energy. "Ambassador, with all due respect, your species moves like we're in low gravity," Peter offered helpfully. "That's because for us, this is low gravity. We've adjusted the artificial gravity in our quarters to Earth standard to help us sleep better." The revelation that humans needed stronger gravity to be comfortable caused several delegates to emit their species equivalent of a gasp. During the lunch break, another incident further demonstrated the gulf between humans and other species. Diplomatic Officer Mary accidentally sipped her hot coffee too quickly, causing her to cough slightly. 3 medical teams rushed in, believing she was dying from atmospheric exposure, only to find her laughing at their concern. "It's just a bit of hot coffee," she explained to the bewildered medical staff. "Goes down the wrong way sometimes. Happens to everyone." The concept that humans regularly consumed near-boiling liquids for pleasure added another layer of terror to their reputation. As the day progressed, the human delegation made conscious efforts to appear less intimidating. They moved more slowly, kept their voices soft, and tried to minimize sudden movements that might startle their hosts. Despite these precautions, their natural capabilities couldn't be completely hidden. During a tour of the station, engineering expert David instinctively helped catch a falling piece of equipment that would have taken 3 aliens to lift. The incident was meant to be helpful, but instead reinforced the frightening strength of humans. "We need to find a balance," Ambassador Peter told his team during their evening briefing. "We can't pretend to be something we're not, but we also don't want to terrify our new allies." The human delegation learned to warn others before performing any physical tasks, to explain their capabilities in advance, and to move with exaggerated care around the station's more fragile species. By the end of the first day, though many species remained nervous around the humans, a few braver individuals had begun to approach them with curious questions. The humans' friendly demeanor and obvious efforts to be considerate helped ease some of the initial terror. As Ambassador Peter prepared his first report back to Earth, he couldn't help but smile at the situation. Humans had spent centuries imagining first contact with aliens, often fearful of superior beings. Instead, they found themselves having to reassure the galaxy that they came in peace, despite being the most physically imposing species in known space. The Galactic Defense Council met in their secure chamber, reviewing footage from the human diplomatic mission. General Steve, representing the Unified Defense Forces, stood before the gathered military leaders, his expression grave. "What you're about to see will change our understanding of combat capabilities," he announced, activating the main display. This is footage from a standard Earth military training exercise. The video showed human soldiers running obstacle courses, carrying heavy equipment, and engaging in hand-to-hand combat. The alien military leaders watched in stunned silence as humans demonstrated their natural abilities. "Note that these are not their elite forces," General Steve continued. "These are regular training exercises for basic infantry units." Admiral Frank, commander of the Stellar Fleet, raised his sensory appendage. "Are you suggesting these humans could be valuable military assets?" "More than that," General Steve replied. "They could revolutionize our entire approach to warfare. Watch this next sequence." The display showed human special forces conducting underwater operations, high-altitude parachute jumps, and Arctic warfare exercises. Each demonstration highlighted humans operating in conditions that would be fatal to most galactic species. "They can function in almost any environment," General Steve explained. "No environmental suits needed for most planetary conditions. They can survive in temperatures and pressures that would kill our best-equipped troops." The chamber erupted in urgent discussions. A military representative from the gas giant world spoke up. "We've already received 17 requests from various systems wanting to recruit human mercenaries." "That's what concerns me," General Steve responded. "The humans haven't just attracted attention from legitimate governments." He switched to a new display showing intelligence reports. "Multiple criminal organizations and rebel groups are already attempting to make contact with Earth's military forces." The next demonstration proved even more shocking. Footage played of human combat medics performing emergency field surgery, treating injuries that would be fatal to most species. The humans' ability to survive and recover from severe trauma added another dimension to their military potential. "Their medical capabilities alone are revolutionary," a medical officer noted. "They can continue fighting with injuries that would incapacitate our forces." General Steve nodded grimly. "Which brings us to our primary concern." He displayed a tactical analysis. "If the humans ever decided to become hostile, our current defense strategies would be largely ineffective against them." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. A species that could shrug off most environmental hazards, survive severe injuries, and operate in almost any condition would be nearly impossible to contain through conventional means. "We need to establish military cooperation protocols immediately," Admiral Frank declared. "Better to have them as allies than potential adversaries." The discussion turned to practical matters. How would they integrate humans into existing military structures? How could they prevent human capabilities from destabilizing current power balances? What safeguards needed to be in place? "There's another factor to consider," General Steve added, displaying new data. "Human military technology, while less advanced than ours in some areas, is remarkably effective. They developed these technologies to work in Earth's extreme conditions. Some of their innovations could be invaluable." The meeting concluded with 3 major decisions. First, to establish a joint military training program with Earth. Second, to create special protocols for human military personnel serving with alien forces. Third, to begin a comprehensive study of human military capabilities and potential countermeasures, just in case. As the military leaders filed out, Admiral Frank remained, studying the footage of human training exercises. "You know," he said to General Steve, "throughout galactic history, we've always feared meeting a technologically superior species. Who would have thought our greatest challenge would come from beings who evolved on a planet so harsh it made them naturally superior warriors?" General Steve watched the screens showing humans performing what they considered routine military drills. "The galaxy just became a much more interesting place," he replied. "Let's just hope we can maintain peace, Because a war with humans. He paused, considering his words carefully. That would be something none of us are prepared for. The Galactic Cultural Exchange Center buzzed with activity as the first human entertainment showcase was about to begin. Director Paul, responsible for cultural integration, stood nervously before the alien audience. "Before we begin," he announced, "I must remind everyone that what you're about to see is considered light entertainment on Earth. Please remember your stress relief devices are under your seats." The first showing was a simple action movie. Within minutes, several alien species had to leave the theater, overwhelmed by what they perceived as excessive violence. What humans considered mild action sequences appeared as horrific survival footage to most galactic species. "They do this for fun," gasped one observer, watching humans perform stunts in the movie. "They deliberately simulate dangerous situations for entertainment." The next cultural shock came during the shared dining experience. The human chef had prepared what he considered a mild, diplomatic-friendly menu. However, the simple act of cooking with heat and adding spices caused considerable concern among the alien observers. "You deliberately add capsaicin compounds to your food?" asked a food safety expert, their sensory tentacles writhing in distress. "On most worlds, that's classified as a chemical irritant." Director Paul watched as a human diplomat casually sipped hot coffee, causing nearby aliens to flinch. "Yes, many of us start our day with a hot, caffeinated beverage. It helps us wake up. You need neurotoxins to start your day." The food safety expert looked ready to call security. The cultural exchange continued with presentations about human medical practices. The alien medical professionals watched in horror as humans explained routine procedures like setting broken bones, performing surgery, and even their dental care. "You drill into your teeth while conscious." One medical observer had to excuse themselves from the presentation. "Well, we use local anesthetic," the human dentist explained, not helping the situation. The concept of deliberately numbing parts of their bodies only added to the aliens' terror. The presentation of human sports proved equally challenging. What humans considered casual games appeared as extreme survival contests to other species. A simple baseball game had to be paused multiple times to reassure the audience that the players were not in mortal danger. They hit projectiles at each other for points. A security officer made notes in their risk assessment report. "And children play this." However, not all cultural exchanges were met with fear. The human concepts of music and dance, while intense by galactic standards, fascinated many species. The ability to create rhythmic patterns and move in coordination demonstrated a different side of human capabilities. During an art exhibition, a human painter demonstrated traditional watercolor techniques. The alien artists were amazed by the humans' ability to create beauty despite their strength. Such fine motor control, marveled an alien artist, from beings who can bend metal with their hands. The day's most surprising success came from an unexpected source: human comedy. While many jokes didn't translate well, the concept of finding humor in challenging situations resonated with many species. The human ability to laugh at their own dangerous environment proved oddly reassuring. "Perhaps," suggested cultural advisor Tom, "we're not so different after all. We just develop different ways of dealing with our environments." The exchange program also revealed surprising similarities. Many species shared human interests in exploration, discovery, and creative expression. The methods might differ, but the underlying motivations were often the same. As the first day of cultural exchange drew to a close, Director Paul met with his alien counterparts to assess the results. "Yes, some of our entertainment might seem intense," he acknowledged, "but look at how many points of connection we found. Our differences make us interesting to each other, but our similarities make us compatible." The Alien Cultural Board had to agree. Despite the challenges and occasional panic, the exchange had been enlightening. They began planning future events, this time with better warning systems and more stress counselors on standby. As one alien observer noted in their report, "Humans are terrifying. Yes, but they're terrifying in an increasingly fascinating way. Their ability to find joy in their harsh existence might be their most remarkable trait of all. The emergency alert blared through the Galactic Council chambers. On the massive holographic display, red warning signals highlighted an advancing fleet of warships belonging to the Empire, a notoriously aggressive species that had remained isolated from the Council. They've launched simultaneous attacks on 3 human colonies, reported Defense Commander Jack, his voice tense. They believe eliminating humans now is their only chance before we become too integrated into galactic society. The Council watched in horror as the Imperial fleet engaged the human defense forces. The Empire had expected an easy victory against what they considered a primitive species. They were wrong. "Incoming transmission from Earth Fleet Commander Bill," announced the communications officer. The human commander's face appeared on screen, remarkably calm despite the battle raging around his ship. "We can gauge the enemy fleet at Wilson Colony. Be advised that human combat protocols are now in effect. We recommend all non-human forces maintain a safe distance." What followed shocked even those who had studied human military capabilities. The human ships, though technologically less advanced, displayed maneuvers that most species would consider suicidal. They dove through asteroid fields, used gravity slingshots around stars, and engaged in close-quarter combat that violated every standard naval doctrine. "They're doing what?" gasped an alien tactical officer, watching human ships deliberately vent their atmospheres to change direction rapidly. "The crews should be dead. Human ships are designed to function with multiple hull breaches," explained Defense Commander Jack. "Their crews can continue fighting even in compromised environments." The Empire's forces, accustomed to fighting opponents who followed standard tactical protocols, found themselves completely unprepared for human warfare. Human Marines boarded enemy vessels, fighting in conditions that would incapacitate most species. They operated in zero gravity, toxic atmospheres, and extreme temperatures without missing a beat. "Imperial Command demanding our surrender," reported a communication officer at Wilson Colony. The response from the human governor was brief. "Tell them to look up." The Imperial forces looked up to see human orbital drop troops descending through the atmosphere in what appeared to be minimal protection gear. The sight of humans willingly dropping from orbit with personal thrusters shattered Imperial morale at Wilson Colony. "They're not even waiting for landing craft." An Imperial commander's panic transmission was intercepted. "They're jumping out of perfectly good spacecraft." The battles continued across all 3 colonies, but the pattern was the same. The Empire had prepared to fight a conventional war against a conventional enemy. Instead, they faced humans who treated lethal environments as minor inconveniences and saw impossible odds as interesting challenges. At the second colony, human miners converted their heavy equipment into improvised weapons. The Empire's forces found themselves facing civilians who could operate complex machinery in vacuum conditions while wearing minimal protection. The third colony witnessed perhaps the most terrifying display of human capabilities. When the Empire deployed biological weapons, the humans simply adjusted their filters and kept fighting, their natural resistance to toxins rendering the weapons nearly useless. "Imperial fleet in full retreat," announced Defense Commander Jack after 18 hours of combat. "All colonies secured. Human casualties minimal." The council chamber sat in stunned silence. The Empire, a species that had terrorized its sector for centuries, had been decisively defeated by what they had considered an primitive species. "We're receiving a message from Earth Central Command," reported the communications officer. The message was characteristically human in its brevity. "Attacks on civilian colonies are unacceptable. We expect Imperial surrender within 24 hours, or we will demonstrate why Earth is classified as it is." The Empire surrendered in 22 hours. As the Council processed these events, Defense Commander Jack made a final observation. The Empire made a crucial mistake. They looked at human technology and saw a less advanced species. They should have looked at human evolution. Any species that evolved on Earth doesn't know how to give up. The crisis had lasted less than a day, but its implications would echo through the galaxy for generations. The message was clear. Humans weren't just survivors of a death world. They were its masters, and they had just proven they could master any other environment they encountered just as effectively. 1 year after the Imperial Crisis, Earth had become the galaxy's most fascinating destination for scientific research. The Galactic Science Academy established its new Extreme Environment Research Center in the Rocky Mountains, where alien scientists studied how humans thrived in conditions they once thought impossible. Professor Dave stood before a mixed group of human and alien researchers, pointing to data displays showing Earth's various ecosystems. What we once saw as barriers to life, we now understand as catalysts for adaptation, he explained. Earth's harsh conditions didn't limit evolution. They supercharged it. In the observation dome, alien researchers watched in amazement as human mountain climbers scaled sheer cliffs in what the humans called perfect weather conditions. The temperature was well below freezing, with wind speeds that would have grounded most species' vehicles. Remarkable, noted lead researcher Mark, who had first discovered Earth. They've turned their adaptations into recreational activities. What we see as survival situations, they view as weekend hobbies. The research center had made significant breakthroughs in understanding human physiology. Their findings were revolutionizing everything from medical treatment to spacecraft design across the galaxy. Human ability to repair damage, resist toxins, and adapt to new environments was helping other species develop better survival techniques. The most important thing we've learned, Professor Dave continued, isn't just about human physical capabilities. It's about the mindset that comes with evolving on a death world. Humans don't just survive challenges. They actively seek them out. This understanding had profound implications. Galactic corporations began hiring human consultants for problem solving. Human approaches to engineering, which often involved working with rather than against extreme conditions, were revolutionizing construction throughout space. In the diplomatic sector, humans had become valued mediators. Their unique perspective, being simultaneously one of the most durable and most empathetic species, made them excellent at understanding different viewpoints. They can be terrifyingly strong, observed Council Leader Bob, yet they're gentle enough to care for the most delicate species. It's a remarkable combination. Earth's tourism industry was booming, though in an unusual way. Most alien visitors remained in carefully controlled orbital stations, watching in fascination as humans went about their daily lives on the surface. What had once been seen as a horrifying death world was now viewed as a living laboratory of adaptation and resilience. "We're establishing new research partnerships every day," reported Dr. Emma from the International Science Coalition. "Other species are particularly interested in our emergency response techniques. Our ability to function in disaster situations is helping develop new crisis management protocols across the galaxy." Perhaps the most significant change was in how the galaxy viewed Earth's classification. While it remained technically a Class 14 death world, the term had lost its fearful connotations. Instead, it became a mark of respect, a recognition of the remarkable world that had produced such an adaptable species. In the Galactic Council, a new motion was being discussed. "Earth has taught us that our definition of habitable was too narrow," declared Ambassador Peter. "We need to rethink how we classify planets and species. Survival doesn't always look the way we expect it to." The human tendency to help other species adapt to challenging conditions had earned them a new nickname in galactic circles: the teachers of survival. Their methods were often unconventional, but their results were undeniable. A year ago, we feared humans because they evolved in conditions we couldn't survive, reflected Mark in his latest research paper. Now we understand that those same conditions created not just their physical capabilities, but their most valuable traits: adaptability, innovation, and an unshakable desire to overcome challenges. As the sun set over the research center, Professor Dave watched a group of alien scientists cautiously experiencing their first Earth rainfall under human supervision. Their mixture of terror and fascination reminded him how far they'd all come. "We're not just sharing our strength," he noted in his daily log. "We're sharing our perspective. And sometimes, seeing the universe through new eyes is the greatest adaptation of all." The galaxy had learned that Earth wasn't just a death world. It was a proving ground for life's incredible potential to adapt and thrive. And its inhabitants weren't just survivors. They were living proof that what doesn't kill you really does make you stronger.